Hello YouTube, this is Dr. Hexagon and I'm going to show you how I make a survival snare. There are not too many different ways to make this really. Most other people use brass wire. Brass is a malleable wire, so it's easy to work with even without tools. Most snares are made out of 24 gauge wire, and this is a good wire, and pretty much universally all the people that I've read or seen that make snares use 24 gauge wire. You can use other gauges of wire, but 24 is about perfect really. 22 is kind of pushing it. 26 might be a little bit narrow, but of course, you know, if you're in a survival situation, if you can get to any kind of a wire and use it to make a snare trap, then give it a try. Now I'm using steel galvanized wire. It is rust resistant, of course, but I'm sure it will rust if I let it. And I'm going to do this from beginning to end without tools except for this, just for the purposes of this video to speed things up. If I repeatedly bend the wire, it'll snap. I could also use a rock or even a knife to cut it. It's strong enough to not pull apart, but weak enough to work with by hand. And I've cut myself here about an 18-inch length, and I'm going to start with the noose end. The noose end is called the noose end because this is the noose of your snare trap. This loop I keep nice and small. I form a bit of a Y shape right here and pinch onto that, and then I take the ends and I try to twist each of the coils of wire around each other as opposed to one being twisted around the other. I'm going to bend this a little bit so I can pinch onto it and work with it a little bit easier. There we go. I want this loop to be pretty small. This is going to function as like the slip loop for the noose. And this pretty much right here should do it. Don't over twist the wire because you'll weaken it. So now that I've got my slip loop, it's pretty tiny. Take my other end, obviously slip it right through. This twisted part is a little bit thicker, obviously, and stronger. It won't bend as easily. And if it's too long, the longer it is, the stronger it's going to be. But if it's too long, and this doubles back all the way around on itself, it's more likely to snap at the stress point down here. Or snap anywhere, or not be able to successfully snare the prey animal. I don't really like to use snares, but in a survival situation, of course, you know, you can't be too picky about what you do and don't like. The goal is to survive any way you can. So now that I've got that side done, this side can be made a lot larger, and it's a little bit easier to make because of that. Bend that into like a T shape and pinch onto it. Okay. That's pretty much it. That's all it really needs. And this side is what your stake is going to go through, or your 550 cord, or any kind of other braided cord, or any means of attaching it to a fixed object or a bent over sapling for a tripping trap. And if you're going to be staking something into the ground, you can actually use the stake to continue to tighten it firmly around that stake and get a good anchor. And that's really all there is to a snare. Snaring techniques, of course, that's a whole different subject. I'm just going over how to make one. But basically you put them over animal trails, and anywhere you know an animal is going to cross. Increases your chances. The great thing about snare traps and deadfall traps and any kind of trap that you create in a survival situation is they require a minimal amount of hard work and calories to create. And once you set them, you can move on to something else more difficult, something else more, higher necessity, such as constructing a shelter, such as hunting for larger game, such as scouting an area, do anything else that you might need to do. And then you can come back to this, and if they've caught something, that's essentially a free meal. You know, you spent most of your calories getting other work done, and you can come back to this and clean and dress the animal, and you've got food. And that's all there is to it. Cheers.